In a world quietly reshaping its balance of power, three nations are moving beneath the surface of global headlines: the United States, India, and Japan. Three democracies, separated by oceans and history, are aligning in ways few understand. United by a single, silent purpose: to counter the rise of China's new empire. What began as trade partnerships and diplomatic summits has evolved into something far deeper: a hidden military and intelligence coordination designed not for war, but for deterrence. It's the kind of alliance that doesn't need to be declared. It's one that operates in silence in the shadows of the Indo-Pacific. For decades, the United States held unrivaled dominance across the Pacific. Its aircraft carriers patrolled the South China Sea, and its alliances with Japan and South Korea guaranteed balance in East Asia. But as China's power expanded economically, militarily, and digitally, that balance began to erode. In response, Washington realized something crucial: countering China's global ambitions would require more than American strength. It would need partners capable of acting with independence, leverage, and strategic patience. It would need India and Japan. Japan brought unmatched technological and maritime expertise. India brought geography, manpower, and political credibility among developing nations. Together, they formed the pillars of a quiet containment structure that Beijing still struggles to fully decode. The public sees the visible side: the Quad meetings, the military drills, the diplomatic handshakes. But behind those moments lies something much larger: a coordinated network of logistics, surveillance, and strategic signaling designed to surround China's influence from every direction. It started subtly. In 2017, joint naval exercises between India, Japan, and the United States, known as the Malabar drills, expanded in scale and ambition. Each year, more ships, more coordination, and more complex warfare simulations followed. But what most observers missed was how these exercises served as rehearsals for real scenarios in marine warfare. Intelligence sharing and logistics operations across the Indian Ocean and Western Pacific. These were not mere drills. They were quiet preparations for a potential crisis that all three nations hoped would never come. China's leadership noticed. As Beijing's Belt and Road Initiative extended its reach through ports and infrastructure projects, the alliance responded not with confrontation, but with strategic presence. India developed the Andaman and Nicobar Command, overseeing key choke points in the Indian Ocean where Chinese vessels pass. Japan modernized its self-defense forces, reinterpreting its pacifist constitution to allow for collective self-defense. And United States shifted its focus toward what it now calls integrated deterrence, an approach that blends military, economic, and cyber capabilities across multiple partners. Individually, these moves seemed independent. Together, they formed a seamless chain of influence that Beijing could not ignore. Washington's defense analysts quietly began referring to it as the Democratic Triangle, not a formal alliance, but a synchronized understanding. One nation anchors the Pacific, another secures the Indian Ocean, and the third bridges the gap between them. In this triangular geometry, Japan's role became that of the sentinel. Its advanced radar systems, surveillance aircraft, and maritime patrol fleets formed the first line of detection against any escalation in the East China Sea. India's role was strategic: depth-sites, air bases, missile sites, and naval presence stretched from the Himalayas to the Andaman Sea, giving the alliance a southward reach China has yet to match. And America's role, as always, was to provide the connective tissue: intelligence, logistics, and deterrence power backed by its global reach. China, of course, denies feeling encircled. But behind closed doors, Beijing's strategists speak of a containment mosaic. To them, this alliance is not a direct military threat. It's a psychological one. It signals that China's expansion will always be watched, measured, and quietly counterbalanced. For a government that thrives on predictability and control, uncertainty is the ultimate discomfort. The cooperation extends beyond defense. In cybersecurity, India and Japan have joined American-led programs to secure digital infrastructure across Asia. In space, the three nations are developing joint monitoring systems for satellite movement and potential threats. Even in semiconductors, the new oil of the global economy, the trio has begun building parallel supply chains designed to reduce dependence on Chinese manufacturing. Every move is small, technical, and deliberately understated, but collectively, they form a silent strategy of resilience. For India, this alliance offers more than military benefit. It elevates New Delhi's role from a regional power to a global stakeholder. By aligning with the US and Japan, India gains access to technologies and intelligence systems previously restricted to NATO allies. But more importantly, it strengthens India's diplomatic flexibility. Unlike traditional alliances, this partnership does not demand subservience. India remains autonomous, able to engage Russia, trade with Iran, and participate in BRICS while still maintaining strategic convergence with the West. It's a delicate balance, and so far India has managed it flawlessly. Japan's motivations are equally complex. After decades of pacifism, Tokyo has slowly redefined its role in global security. The rise of China's navy, North Korea's missile tests, and Russia's assertiveness in the Far East have all pushed Japan toward a new identity, that of a proactive security player. Partnering with India allows Japan to project stability across the Indian Ocean, a region vital to its energy imports. The United States provides the security umbrella, but India provides access, credibility, and reach. For Washington, this silent alliance achieves what decades of diplomacy could not. It allows the U.S. to share responsibility without relinquishing influence. By empowering regional democracies, America maintains its global posture while reducing direct confrontation. It's a cost-effective strategy, one that leverages local legitimacy against authoritarian expansion. Still, this partnership is not without challenges. India maintains deep defense ties with Russia, a historical legacy that sometimes complicates Western coordination. Japan remains cautious about appearing too militaristic, wary of domestic opposition. And the U.S. faces its own political divisions over foreign commitments. But what unites the three is a shared understanding: the world's stability depends on preventing unilateral dominance, whether economic, technological, or territorial. The Indo-Pacific is now the world's central stage. 40% of global trade passes through its waters, and its economies drive most of the planet's growth. Whoever controls its routes controls the global future. China's naval expansion, its artificial islands, its bases in the Indian Ocean, its growing fleet of submarines reflects a clear intent to dominate this space. The alliance's counter is equally clear: maintain freedom of navigation, economic diversity, and collective deterrence. And yet, silence doesn't mean weakness. Every summit, every exercise, every shared satellite image is part of a quiet choreography, one designed to signal capability without provocation. It's a new kind of diplomacy, where strength is demonstrated not through speeches, but through synchronization. In this dance of shadows, India holds a unique advantage. Its non-aligned history allows it to bridge divides between the West and the global South. Its democracy provides moral legitimacy in contrast to China's authoritarian model. And its geography, nestled between the Himalayas and the Indian Ocean, makes it indispensable to any power-seeking influence in Asia. As the 2020s progress, the silent alliance grows stronger. Joint maritime surveillance now covers the Strait of Malacca, a critical choke point through which much of China's energy supply flows. Cyber command coordination ensures that digital infrastructure remains resilient against attacks. Even cultural and academic exchanges between the three nations subtly reinforce public support for this emerging partnership. For most people, these developments remain invisible, a backdrop to the louder stories of trade wars, elections, and diplomatic disputes. But historians may look back on this decade as the moment the global order quietly shifted, not through conflict, but through collaboration. Not through domination, but through equilibrium. United States, Japan, and India may never sign a formal pact. They don't need to. Their unity lies not in words, but in shared understanding that freedom, balance, and sovereignty must coexist if the world is to remain stable. Together, they form the invisible architecture of deterrence, the framework that keeps Asia's skies open, its waters free, and its nations sovereign. China continues to build ports, pipelines, railways, influence. But for every move it makes, there's a countermove from this alliance, quiet, deliberate, and precise. The world may not see it yet, but the pieces are moving. Slowly, patiently. A new equilibrium is taking shape. And when the history of this era is written, it may not speak of battles or treaties, but of silent partnerships. Of nations that chose coordination over confrontation. Of a world that found stability not through dominance, but through balance. Because sometimes the most powerful alliances are the ones that never need to be announced.